Melyssa Ford says she feels hurt that her co-host on the JoeBudden podcast did not watch her movie.
Watch the movie, man. I watched the movie.
Hey!
No one else watched?
I didn't see it yet.
I didn't see it either.
I didn't see it yet.
Classic
I saw
cinema right
bits and
there,
pieces.
boy.
For those of you that don't know, Melyssa Ford is an actor. A lot of people think she's not an actor, but she does get a noticeable amount of gigs in the acting field. And she went on a break to do a film. And in the beginning of the podcast where she returned, they were talking about who saw her movie. And basically nobody saw her movie except Parks. And that was quite shocking. You would think people would make an attempt to try to watch her movie. I mean, there's other people on the show who do far less than a movie. Like Ish will hit the spot and will like do some podcast interview with some people who have a podcast, and people will talk about it. People will break it down. People will talk about what he's wearing on the pod. But Melyssa Ford does a whole movie and nobody seems to care. Now, Melyssa Ford tweeted this on the JoeBudden TV community, so you might not see it on her Twitter, but I think it was very strategic, as the JoeBudden TV Twitter community is a place where a lot of the fans meet and talk about what's going on with the show. But more interestingly enough, it's actually where JoeBudden monitors a lot of the conversation about the show. And I think that's pretty interesting that that's where she chose to let off how she felt hurt. But let me know what you think in the comments. Do you feel like Melyssa Ford should feel this way? Do you feel like she's being a sensitive Sammy? I don't know. I think she's actually right in how she feels. A lot of people might say, oh, you're doing these BS Lifetime style movies, but it's actually not that easy to get these roles. Not saying she's Denzel or Julia Roberts, but to get any type of gig where you work in arts and get paid is an achievement. That's a big deal. And for the members of the JoeBudden podcast to breeze through it is very revealing. And could that be why she felt so lackadaisical in her return episode? Did she feel disrespected? Did she feel as if the other members of the show are playing in her face? Oh man, now her return episode looks very interesting. It looks very captivating. And I'm curious to see how Melyssa Ford bounces back. I'm curious to see if that's something JoeBudden addresses. Will they make an attempt to even watch the movie now that Melyssa Ford has gone public with how disrespected she feels? And even in that episode, Melyssa Ford goes on to say that, you know, she sends things to the group chat and people just laugh at her. She was sending things about what she wants to discuss on the show. And maybe the JoeBudden podcast just has a hard time finding ways to communicate with each other. And maybe there's a male-female dynamic where the gap needs to be bridged. Oh, man, thank you for coming back, Melyssa Ford. It was looking a little slow for the JoeBudden podcast, you know, when you were gone. And now that you're back, there's a lot to talk about. All right, y'all, that's my video for now. Let me know what you think. Should Melyssa Ford be hurt, or is she being a big old baby? I think she's completely justified in how she feels, but let me know what you think. And I wanted to get to something that I did earlier. I called a radio station in New York City, WNYC, and they were talking about Reddit. And they asked people to call up. So I called up and had a conversation about what it is to be a Reddit mod for the JoeBudden Network. I'm not going to post it on YouTube. I'm actually going to post it on my Twitter page. And it was a pretty cool conversation I had with Brian Lehrer of WNYC about the process of being a Reddit mod, how a Reddit mod group can break up. For those of you that don't know, I was on a Reddit team and we had a falling out that was pretty comical. And that's why I called up the show. I thought it was an interesting conversation. It was on WNYC. I wasn't a guest. I'm not saying that. I just called up and they happened to ask me some questions about how I mod my Reddit community. And that makes it a perfect opportunity to tell you all to go to the JoeBudden Network subreddit. It's where I mod. We are at 12,000. We were just under 1,000 when I joined the mod team. So it's pretty cool for us to get to the point where we are at the thousands and also the 10,000s and 12,000s. I think 20,000 is coming real soon if you ask me. And I don't want you to be fooled by that number, because in that Reddit community, we have some of the greatest engagement. The posts there actually get more upvotes. Like the top posts all time on that subreddit get more upvotes than the subreddits for the JoeBudden podcast that have been around longer. I was kicked out of the JoeBudden podcast subreddit because I was basically sharing the information from the Reddit talks that Ice and the rest of the members of the show would do, and they were like, that's illegal. You can't share things that are happening on the internet. And I had to create my own community, and that is the community which I created. So follow the JoeBudden podcast there. It's a much more free-flowing conversation in that avenue of information. And also follow me on Twitter, because that is where I will be sharing my call-in with WNYC, the Brian Lehrer Show. Also follow me on Instagram, The Stop TV. A lot of things are happening in content land. Got so many videos coming, so make sure you like, comment, subscribe, so that way my videos come to the top of your feed. Enable your push notifications as well. I really would love if you do that, so that way when my videos drop, you get a notification right away. All right, this is Danny from The Stop. Peace.